Hello and welcome to another video from Crafters Corner. Tejal here today. Today I'm talking about the Studio 490 Wendy Vecchi Embossing Paste. Now this is one of the products that I'd really been dying to lay my hands on, and when I finally got it, I've been playing with it like crazy. So let me jump right into it and explain what it is all about and how you use it and what all you can do with this. This is an embossing paste. It's different from your embossing powders that you use with your Versamark. This you use mostly with your stencils, and you can use it directly on your project. But with stencil, it gives you an amazing texture, especially when you're trying to create a 3D effect on your cards or on your projects. This is the one thing that will give you that. So let me show you what this looks like. This is a cream which looks more like whipped cream, if I may say so, and it's a very smooth consistency, almost like butter. You can just spread it on with a spatula. Now one thing, when you're using this dries very fast. So whenever you're using this, as soon as you're done using it, cap the lid back on. And secondly, because it dries very fast, you have to be careful of cleaning your stencil and your palette knife or your tool that you're using to spread this on your stencil. Clean it as soon as possible. So let me show you how it works. So let me pick up a few stencils. Now I've got some stencils from the these are all from Crafters Workshop. So let me jump onto it. This one is the mini Roman letters, and let me pick up a little darker cardstock so I can show you what you can do with this. So now I have my cardstock over here. First thing I'm going to do is make sure this cardstock stays flat. So I'll just add a little bit of tape. Because this is the craft sheet, the tape will not stick down. And when you're using embossing paste or mediums like this, use your craft sheet because it makes cleaning up a hell lot easier. Now when you're working with this, what all do you need? You need your embossing paste, you need a palette knife or some kind of a tool to spread it with. You can use your butter knives, you can use your credit card, you can even use a scrap paper, but I have found using this kind of a knife makes applying, cleaning very easier. So this you can pick up at any art and craft shop. This is pretty easy. Your wipes, keep a wet wipe really handy because I'll show you how I clean my stencil with this. And of course you need a bit of masking tape. Now I'm going to be using a masking tape to make sure that this stencil stays in place, does not move out. I'm just aligning this with the paper, and I'm just adding a bit of it to this side, because it's very important to make sure your stencil does not move while you're applying your embossing paste. So this is pretty good for me, and I keep it such that if I have to check, I can move my stencil and see it. So this is pretty much good for me right now. Now don't dip it straight in because it's difficult to apply it because of this curve. Pick it up with the back of your palette knife, cover it. Now this much would be sufficient. Just apply it like you're frosting a cake, if I may say so, though I've never frosted a cake in my life. It sure feels like it. Just try to make it as smooth as possible. And I still will have some leftovers. So I think I've covered it all, and I'm just scraping the excess, and I still have this much left, so which I'm going to put it right back. So you just need a teeny tiny amount. Straight away clean it off with my wet wipe. And now I'm going to just lift this up, and you can see the amazing texture I've got. Now this stencil, if you do not have baby wipe handy, dump it in a tub of water or get up, wash it under your tap, and it will clean right off. But if you can't get up, do what I do, take your wet wipe and just clean it off. Because this paste dries out fast, you need to clean it as soon as possible. And there, my stencil is clean. Now if I want, I can go back and clean it under running water again, but for now this is clean enough for me. Damage any of this, and if there is any excess on the side that's overhanging, just you can take your finger and wipe it off, or you can let it dry and then you can cut it off. But I find this is okay. So now I'm going to let this leave it aside to dry, because this needs around hardly 5 or 10 minutes to dry. Now because this is my craft sheet, it just cleans right off. Yep, it's dried. So it's pretty hard to show in the camera. Let me see if I can. There's a thin texture over here. Now because I went pretty thin on this layer, if you want, you can apply a thick, nice, good gloop of it. That will take around 3-4 hours to dry. Because I wanted it to dry pretty quickly, I applied a thin layer. You can apply a thick layer as well, depending on what you need on your project at that time. So now once this is dry, you are ready to go and complete your card with it. Now what I'm showing you right now is, even though you have a white paste, you can still color it. You can add a lot of mediums, color your pastes, and then use it on your project. So it doesn't mean that you have white, so you only need to use it as white. You can color them. Now for coloring, what all can you use? You can use anything. You can use your distress inks. You can use your favorite mists. You can use your gelatos. You can use your re-inkers. You can use your acrylic paints. You can use your distress paints. Anything. You really need to try and play with things so that it gives you an idea. So let me take a dab of this, and then I'm going to take, first of all, let me secure my card. And for this one, I'm using the mini Flutterby. Of course. So now this one is a little difficult to adhere, but not impossible. So because I want these butterflies in, and I'm going to be coloring them one by one, so I need this side and this side to be pretty steady. I hope, yeah, you can see that. Just making sure I get this part in. Okay, so, and because I'm going to be needing just a little bit of it, so here's what I'm taking. You can see it's mixing right away, just like buttercream frosting. Oh god, I'm going to be hungry by the end of this. So now, depending on how dark, light, or however I want it, I can add more color, leave a bit of color. So now that I'm pretty much happy with the color I have, I'm going to be taking it up and applying very carefully, because I just want it in that particular area. And I'm going to be applying a thicker one. I'm just using regular wipes, and there you can see. I did manage to get it out a little bit, but that's fine. So I'm just going to quickly clean off my stencil with the wipe, and it's good to go. There, so the stencil is clean now. Now I'm going to be taking the other butterflies, so trying to make sure I don't cover this. So now I'm going to be using my which color is this? Bougainvillea fuchsia. Just a few drops of it. That's it. Clean off your palette, and of course quickly your stencil. Okay, so that's how you can do it with coloring your embossing pastes. I've just shown you two methods, but you can really try with your re-inker refills, your distress ink refills. You can try with Copic re-inkers. You can try with acrylic paints, distress paints. Possibilities are endless. So give it a try and experiment. The more you experiment, the more you'll have an idea of how to use these things. So let me show you another thing that you can do with it. So I'll just leave it aside to dry. This is another of my favorite, the Mini Flower Frenzy. Now for this I'm taking a darker cardstock. So here I'm making sure this stays. Right. Now once you've applied your paste to it, you can as well apply, add things on top of it. For example, you can add your distressed glitters, any other kind of glitter, and as your paste is drying, the glitter will dry on top of it and sealing it in place. Or you can use your embossing powders on top of that glitter and heat set them. So I'm taking a bit of the paste. Here you can see that gorgeous paper. Now, just quickly wipe off my stencil. Now what I'm going to do is take my distressed glitter while it is still wet. This is rock candy stickles, clear rock candy, I think, not stickles, sorry. And the glitter will stick wherever. Can you see that? And now let this heat set, and you've got a gorgeous background to work with. All you need to do is add a sentiment and your card is done. This is like shimmering goodness. So here we go. I'm taking this one. This is the Mini Art Is. So I'm just making sure I've got this straight. So again, I'm taking just a little bit of the embossing paste. And there you have this gorgeous background. So quickly just running my wet wipe over the stencil. Because this dries so quickly, I cannot leave my stencil and clean it later, because once it is dry on your stencil, it's dry. So then I'm picking this up again. I'm going to be adding, I'm using a gold embossing powder. Now also there's a little bit of powders where I don't want them. So I'm just taking a paintbrush and lightly brushing through, making sure I don't remove any of the powders of the paste. And there we have it. So now I'm going to just Now you can do two things. Now if I heat it right away, because of the fact that the stencil, the embossing paste is still wet, it will start bubbling up. Let me show you what that looks like. Now here you can see the paste has bubbled up a bit. Now I'm going to let the rest of it dry and then come back and heat emboss and then show you the difference between both. Both will give a really good texture, but it depends on what you want at that point of time. So let me get back to you in a while. Okay, so I'm back now. This lower part of the embossing paste has been drying for a while now, and now let me heat emboss and show it to you the difference that you get when you emboss immediately after you apply your embossing powder while your paste is still wet, and after the paste dries. Now that the paste is dry, the powder is stuck onto that embossing paste and it will not bubble as much with it. Okay, so here you can see that this 4 lines were heat embossed before the paste actually dried, and you can see a bit of bubbling over here where it has gotten even more dimensional, whereas this part has stayed put. The letters have not changed as much. It's not a considerable difference, but for those who want really good results, I would say let your powders, your paste dry first and then go back and heat your embossing powders. So this is the last of the methods that I am showing you on the video today. So let me just recap quickly what I've shown today. So we started with how to apply your pastes and clean your stencils. And one more thing about this paste I want to mention is that this acts like a resist. So once you've applied it on, you can apply the white paste on your white cardstock, let it dry, and then go over it with your distress inks, and it will give you a beautiful resist. If not, you can always apply it over your dark cardstock and get fabulous results. But this does work as a beautiful resist. So this is the one thing that we did. Then we went on to doing how to color your embossing pastes with different mediums. This one was done with your distress ink. This one was done with your Lindy Stamp Gang mists. You can use many other mediums as I mentioned. Then I went on to show you how to use your glitters over your embossing paste. Before the paste dries, apply your glitter and let it dry. Now this one is rubbing off a little bit for my liking, so I will go over this with a slight spray of a sealant and this will be good to go. And last but not the least, applying embossing powder over your paste while it is still wet, let it dry and then heat it so the embossing powder melts. Started with white, but after applying your golden embossing powder, this looks like a gold embossing paste. So once you want to experiment, you can start with white and then you can pick up the different colors of embossing paste that we have in the store. We have white, clear, I think gold, silver and black, but I will check and put out all the links in the blog post, so be sure to check those out. And thank you for being with me in this video. See you soon with another video. Happy crafting!